Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time round, we're checking out something a little bit more low-key, especially in comparison to last week's installment. This week, we're checking out a mod by the name of UDig. Now, if you haven't figured out why this mod is called UDig by now, then I'm not entirely sure what I can do for you, short of suggesting a brain transplant, but yes, the central gimmick behind this mod is that you can indeed destroy the walls. You can dig through the environment. You can dig through it using rockets, using bullets for some reason, and of course, using a shovel. And the neat thing about this is it's not just standard digging through to reveal the level. There's also a little bit of an element of risk-reward here, because as you can see, there'll occasionally be a few enemies that will be encased in those walls that you're going to have to deal with if you're digging in the wrong place. And if you're after a specific power-up, like some armor, chances are it'll be buried alongside something big and nasty, like a Baron, for example. And it's just a really neat bit of design. It's something that keeps you interested all the way through. And this isn't a big mod, it's relatively short, it's just one map, but it seems to do a hell of a lot with one map and one pretty interesting concept. One such way in which it squeezes a little bit of mileage out of the wall destruction gimmick is through how the mod uses keycards. Now, normally you'd use keycards on relevant doors, but here the keycards are used for relevant types of walls. So some walls, which you'll be able to identify through the darker textures, will just be undiggable until you come across the correct keycard, which is a little odd logic-wise, but still serves to add a nice bit of structure to the level itself. It's kind of ingenious, really. There were a few moments during my initial playthrough of this where I dug through a wall that I now had access to through a keycard and suddenly recognized that it was back round the start, because the really neat thing about how this is all constructed and how the gimmick is used is that it's not just you finding the correct path to the next part of the level, it's about you actively transforming the level itself to become the next part. That starting opening area, for example, will open up and present you with a whole bunch of new challenges as you loop back round to it, and I just find that really cool. I also have to admit that I'm still a little mystified even now over how exactly the wall destruction gimmick works. It's definitely something that I'd like to look much further into, but there's just so many neat applications, as I've already mentioned. The fact that certain walls can only be destroyed via the correct keycard, that certain walls will be destroyed in a certain way, meaning you have to chip around the edge of it before you can get the item on top. And later on we'll probably see another type of wall that will actually descend as you chip away at it, which adds this whole element of trying to beat the clock, of trying to get that wall down to your level as quickly as possible before too many enemies spawn. As I say, it's kind of ingenious in its application. In terms of difficulty, I'd say that UDig's appeal relies on how little you know about its encounters. So if you're going into this first time round, you'll be pretty apprehensive about digging through those walls, because you'll be acutely aware of how many rockets you'll have left and how many you'll potentially need to deal with something big and nasty if you do decide to follow through and dig through that particular wall. And as you get more familiar with the locations of these enemies and where all the good stuff is in fact buried, the mod does actually become a heck of a lot easier. I mean, I played this through on Hurt Me Plenty difficulty, and I'm pretty much thinking it's time for me to step it up a bit just to see how much challenge I can wring out of it now that I know where all those ammo boxes are, because this game really does start throwing rockets at you towards the latter half of the stage, and that's for good reason. It starts putting you up against a lot more hordes. You're certainly going to be facing at least a fair few cyber demons, but yeah, it's never a mod that I feel is trying to be unfair to the player. It pretty much puts everything you will possibly need somewhere in the level for you to discover. There's lots of power-ups, there's a fair few invincibility orbs that you'll be able to take advantage of as well, but overall, I'd say that this mod isn't really built to be a big, meaty challenge. It's more something honestly put together to show off the idea, and thankfully that idea at its core is really fun. So yeah, that's U-Dig in a nutshell really, short and sweet. Pretty pleasant, all things considered, though I'm thinking that's mostly to do with the soundtrack, which is pretty relaxing, pretty chill, a little bit at odds with that moment where you break through a wall and get a face full of Revenant, but still, definitely worth checking out, definitely something I would recommend, and if you fancy checking it out, the link is of course in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and as usual, feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.